Deckard Show. How's it going? How's it going? So tonight I'm back after 2 weeks or a week or I don't know. I guess it's been a couple weeks since the last show. Last time I was here, I was chatting with some good folks about Batman Forever, and this last week, the week before, I wasn't able to do a show, and this week I'm back, and I want to talk about a couple of things. One of those things being Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and another thing being Barbie, because I saw Barbie and I thought, who better to talk about Barbie than a white guy on my own. But I'm not on my own because I got a special guest who you didn't know about. So let me bring that special guest in. Phil. Phil is here.
I've
Philippe.
appeared out of nowhere, out of the ether.
You're like
reflective ooze, ready to talk about the world's #1 movie of 2023, Barbie.
Barbie. So
Despite
you
not seeing it.
Yes, you haven't seen Barbie. So
Nope.
Barbie is we watched it the other day. It's Barbie was a weird one. Barbie was weird because, oh man, I don't even know where to start with it. To be fair, I really don't.
Well, I'm
Go
just gonna say that I have heard two separate things. One, it's a masterpiece, and two, it's awful. And like I've not heard an in between.
Right.
Which is an interesting thing.
Yeah, and I think I'm probably the in between person with this movie. I you know, is it good? Nah. I put it on my letterbox. I gave it a 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars.
3.
You know, yeah. Maybe that was being generous. I don't know. I gave it 3. But yeah, let me pull some stuff up here. So I have some.
Let's hear them. Let's hear them. Let's hear about Barbie.
And
the hype for that was massive.
The hype was insane. The hype was a bit. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where earlier in the summer, because everything was tanking. You know, everything. You know, literally everything. Indiana Jones was terrible.
Yeah.
The Flash was terrible. Nothing was making the bang that people were expecting it to make. So I was like, oh shit, maybe this isn't going to be a very good. You know, I was kind of worried even about Barbie and Oppenheimer. I was like, man, are people really going to go see a Barbie movie, and are people going to go see Oppenheimer? And you know, they did, and I was, you know, I was pleased. In one respect, that people were going to see Barbie and Oppenheimer, because it's like, okay, that's good, because it's a these are you know, it's hard with Barbie because Barbie has a shed ton of, you know, other people, other little movies for, you know, kids and stuff like that are out there, but it's the first kind of major film with like live action Barbie film, so it was nice to see something new get some attention, and also with Oppenheimer, something so, you know, heady and intense also get attention. So I was pleased for that.
You've seen Oppenheimer as well.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer. I'll tell you why.
Haven't? Okay.
It's 3 goddamn hours, and cinemas don't have intermissions. And after seeing
intermissions are great.
Yeah, after seeing Flash, Indiana Jones, and Mission Impossible, you know, the first 2 I didn't have to take a piss break, but on the third one I did, and I was like, dear God, like I just wish they would just play the film, because like when you go to
I'm
the
sorry,
cinema,
my camera.
It's
got. Ugh.
Find a new way to come back.
I will
with your camera. With those other films being so long and stuff, like I had to take a piss break with Mission Impossible, and I was like, you know, if they just didn't have 30-some minutes, 25 to 30 minutes of pre-adverts before the film, like that would be great, because these 3-hour movies with an additional 30 minutes of just fluff, you know, on top, at the front of it. It was just like, come on guys, like this is getting really, it's too much. And so I was kind of
I'm just
annoyed.
surprised that intermissions aren't a thing anymore, and I don't know why they just don't implement them when a movie is over 3 hours long. I think that it's such a wonderful thing that people just forgot is so useful in a situation where you have to watch a movie that long.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, if you think about it, like, whenever I go see a play
Yeah,
that's 3 to 4 hours long, there's always an intermission. So I'm like,
exactly.
it's like, okay, well, if there's intermissions with that, then why are we not doing, intermissions with this? It doesn't make any sense to me.
So
I
my
don't get it.
cinema, it's a chain called Cinestar. I think they're German,
Right.
and they're multiplex. They're a chain. They're big,
Yeah.
and they will have intermissions selectively on movies that are over 2 hours and 40 minutes. I think something like that.
Right.
And they're great because the last movie I watched in the cinema, I think, was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny,
Ugh.
and they had an intermission in between. It was fantastic.
Did they?
Yeah,
That's good. That's good. That's helpful.
it's really
Intermissions.
helpful. People just don't
Intermissions are helpful.
understand. They don't. They think it's this ruining the moment. But man, it gives you, to me, it gives you time to reflect on what you've watched
Yeah.
and kind of refresh yourself, and then go on to the next half with just just thinking about the movie a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think so. It's just a smart thing to do, and I wish it. So anyway, that's my reason for not seeing Oppenheimer. So that's the one movie, one of the big movies this summer that I didn't go and see because time wasn't going to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
it's just too darn long.
You're just too darn loud. You're just too darn
Just too
loud.
darn long.
Um, but yeah, so anyway, we saw Barbie, and I've had friends who have seen it, and I've had friends who have been confused by it and mixed reactions from it, and also there's plenty of reviews and things like that on the internet of people hating it and loving it and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some reviews, like I remember listening to like Mark Kermode's review, which was a really sort of level-headed review, and I appreciated his review. And then I heard like Critical Drinker's review, and he goes so off the deep end. And Critical Drinker is someone who I like sometimes, but there's some of his reviews and I'm like, I don't know if you actually believe what you're saying, or if you're just saying this because it's going to get you attention. Because
Right.
he sort of went after Barbie as this like anti-mother message, and at the it was so bizarre, and I was like, I haven't even seen the movie and I don't believe you.
Right. Right. Right.
And having seen the movie, I'm like, okay, no, you're wrong. Like whatever you were trying to say with that is a bit silly, but what I do agree with is that the film isn't very good. I
So it's
think
not very good.
no, it's not. I
That's
think
what
I
it
mean
boils
it's
down to.
it's a below for me it's a below average comedy. It
Uh-huh.
just it's incredibly uneven in almost every way. With very 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 clunky character work. So there's like
Hmm.
this like mother daughter subplot that runs through that attempts to run through the movie, and
Are these like different characters? Like there's a mother and a daughter, and they're in the real world or something like that?
well,
Sorry, I haven't seen the movie. Maybe I
so
shouldn't
the
ask questions about the story because like everyone else is listening to this and they've seen the movie, obviously.
yeah, I mean the basic gist is Barbie has an existential crisis. Her and Ken end up traveling to the real world, where Barbie realizes that she hasn't really changed the world like she thought, and Ken learns that the patriarchy is really great. But part of Barbie's existential crisis
Margot.
I know, is due to thoughts and feelings of her owner. She's channeling these thoughts of death and things like that are rooted in her owner. So she goes to the real world to find her owner to sort of, fix this
Oh.
situation.
So it's not her going to like Mattel's headquarters.
Well, I mean, they end up going to Mattel's headquarters, and there's a whole
Okay.
hoopla there. And then they then go back to Barbie World with the mother and the daughter. And the mother is the one who was the original owner of Barbie, and yeah, and they go back to Barbie World for some reason, I can't remember what it was, but they go back to Barbie World, and when they get back there, Ken has turned the whole thing upside down into a patriarchy where all the Barbies are fawning over the Kens and sitting at their feet, and all that sort of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so like the first hour is
Fascinating.
Barbie going to the real world, finding this stuff out and then needing to get back to to Barbie World and then having to save Barbie World from what Ken has done. Essentially, is what happens. But like I said, so like this mother daughter, like they just sort of appear. Like they're I don't
appear.
even they're not even I wouldn't even call them characters. They're just sort of like they're character templates. They're like, this is meant to be, washed up bored mom with dreams of creating a new line of Barbie. But and then the daughter is just oh, I'm just moody teenager. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's fine.
You still playing with Barbies as a teenager?
No, the teenager isn't playing with it. The Barbie was the owner of the mom.
You mean was owned by the mom?
Was owned by the mom, yes. And the daughter played with Barbie when she was a child, right? So it's there's yeah.
So she's not being played with at all.
No,
then.
not anymore. And there's nothing really about that, which is actually kind of interesting. Because it's like, I don't understand why you're connected to this woman who hasn't played with you, and the daughter hasn't played with you in a decade or more.
Okay.
It was weird. Or maybe not a decade for the daughter, but like definitely decades for the mom. So it's like, I don't understand why Barbie is having these thoughts that are connected to this woman who used to play with her, who now doesn't play with her anymore anyway. She just happens. And this thing, the movie tries to like when they're in the real world, everything is very. Let me back up. When they're in Barbie World, everything is so absurd, right? It's hyper absurdity in Barbie World, and that's fine because it's like this land of make believe, right? But when they get to the real world, what was so bizarre to me is that the juxtaposition was that the real world was just as weird in certain spots as Barbie World. So like at Mattel's offices are like, it's something that you would dream up, you would imagine in like a Pixar film, the way like
they're
the
like
offices,
a quirky office. Yeah, okay, got it.
yeah, like really really kind of like where the grunt workers are like really cold. It's a really cold gray room with cubicles and everyone's sort of emotionless, and it's all sort of soulless really. And then you get to the boardroom where Will Ferrell is and stuff, and it's just sort of hyper realistic. Everything is absurd and kind of nonsensical,
right.
And they talk about how in the past a Barbie did come through to the real world once and they had to send her back, and all this sort of stuff, and you're just sort of like, okay, so this stuff is like part of its world. It just
it doesn't have any kind of concrete fiction of either side, and it's just like,
well, what was weird for me was that what was weird for me with Barbie is that because the Barbie world was so absurd, having the real world be equally absurd. So like at one bit they're like walking down the beach and some guy just slaps Barbie on the ass, and I'm like, that wouldn't happen in real life. It just wouldn't happen.
Apparently,
and so
it does.
And,
I don't know.
And then like a couple of times Barbie and Ken get arrested, and the cops who arrest them are like super misogynistic, and it's like it's like hyper misogynistic. So it's like this isn't even like a realistic interpretation. Like, she's not really coming into the real world. You're back. She's not really coming into the real world and experiencing the real world. She's experiencing like Hollywood version of these problems, right?
Yeah.
And Ken is also experiencing the same with stuff. So for me, it was just a bit silly. And the other thing that was a problem for me is like when Ken and Barbie get to the real world, like they're learning all this stuff, but they're learning it all through like montage. And there's nothing worse than characters learning valuable things through montage. It's just lazy, effing lazy.
Right. And
as we're watching it, I told Claire, I was like, this really feels like I am watching like the beat outline. I'm watching this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. But there was so little like organic, like connective tissue between the beats that are happening, and scenes and moments aren't really given a chance to breathe. Like I was thinking, really when Barbie got to the real world, that it would have been interesting if if the kind of the come down for her of realizing that that she didn't change the world, and that the world is a very complicated place. And it's like the film achieves it, but lazily, and
Right.
and super super quickly. But it's also these bits of her learning this are cut between goofy ass moments with Will Ferrell and the Mattel stuffs, and also really goofy moments of Ken, you know, reading up on horses and trying to, you know, do surgeries and things like that. So it's like
Trying to do surgeries?
well, he basically thinks that men rule the world and men can do anything and all that kind of stuff. Um,
Okay.
and so it was a complicated movie for me because I didn't feel the character work was really strong at all. I didn't think the character arc for Barbie is complete nonsense. So she, by the end of the movie, she is trying to like find her place in the world, and she's like, maybe I don't belong in Barbie world anymore. Maybe I want to go live in the real world and I want to be a human. And I'm like, but literally this bit of information comes in at the end of the movie.
So it's something that the audience kind of, maybe you, like when you were watching it, you just didn't experience that with her, where at the end
It's not that I didn't experience. It's not that I didn't experience it. It's not there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You didn't experience it, like
Yeah.
through the characters.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
what they're
her
experiencing.
journey, her journey, like it's not there at all. So that was really weird for me. I was like, geez, what is going on with this? This is nonsense. That this is just suddenly what she wants to go and do.
Right. Yeah.
And the same thing for Ken. Like Ken's storyline is maybe the better of the two, but it's still a bit clunky because his whole thing is, and this is where the film is really complicated for me and awkward, and I don't really know what its message is meant to be, because Ken's storyline is he is subjugated by the monarchy that is Barbie Land. He is basically what you know women have been in our society for so long, and you know, kind of second class and all that kind of stuff, right? And all he wants in life is basically to be recognized by Barbie, and to, you know, be in love with her and for her to love him and all that sort of stuff, and basically just acknowledge him he just wants to be acknowledged as a living being, right? And feel kind of equal and stuff,
Right.
And so that's when he goes to real world and discovers patriarchy. He thinks this is great, and he takes that back to Barbie Land, and that's what he tries to set up. But it's all this sort of, you know, it's all sort of a folly. It's a bit like Back to the Future 2, where
Right.
You know,
Alternate
Biff,
1985.
yes, that's basically what the plot is. And they
Right.
when you know he sets this whole thing up, and Barbie's like, oh, this is awful, I got to fix it. But the problem is in fixing it, the way in which they have to fix it is to restore order to Barbie Land by turning it back to the way it was. And that was really jarring, because I was like, wait a minute, you've just been to the real world, and you've seen how fucked up the real world is. I'm 18 minutes in. Hopefully I can say the F word. You see how messed up the real world is.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the Barbie world, and you basically see where, you know, okay, the real world is being portrayed as a patriarchy. Then your world is being portrayed as a matriarchy. Surely, in your made-up world, we should be heading towards, you know, better equality, not treating people as second-class citizens and things like that. That doesn't happen. It's really weird.
So that doesn't happen.
It's really weird. Ken goes through this emotional crisis, and he's broken by the end, and you know, the idea at the end is that he needs to kind of find himself outside of Barbie. That it's not Ken and Barbie, it's Ken, it's Barbie and it's Ken, but then it's like, the thing is, like, at one point in the movie they're like, well, where do the Kens live? And Barbie's like, oh, I don't really know. So the idea is that all the Barbies live in houses, and the Kens just sleep under trees, and like they don't resolve that. They don't sort of like do anything with that. There's also this like council of Barbies, and towards the end they're like, oh, well, maybe we can have a Ken on the council. And the Barbie president's like, no. But maybe we can put you down on a really, really, really low position, and you can work your way up. And then the voiceover, the narrator of the movie, is like, oh, in time the Kens become, you know, equal to the Barbies. And it's like, this is so sloppy and lazy for me, Because then the other thing that was really bizarre is that when Ken goes back and he brainwashes everybody, what happens, how they learn to sort of, all the other Barbies are in this like deep trance. They're just infatuated with Ken and they love Ken and all this kind of stuff.
Right. It's the alternate 1984 segment.
And the only way to break them out of this trance is through this really clunky, self-affirming nonsense that I really didn't like, because it was just this whole like, it was just this whole like, oh, you know, going to, literally they have to go to each and every Barbie and like deliver a very clinical, boring, cliched speech to them about how great they are, about how awesome they are, about how empowered they are, and how, you know, all women love each other, which we know is not true. Like, we just need to stop with that narrative, because it just isn't true. Like, I hate it. So it was that, to me, was also really clunky, because I just thought, you know, in doing that, in order to sort of then turn the Kens on each other, which was a weird plot twist at the end to sort of like break up their whole kind of dominance, the Barbies then started like doing really bitchy things to the Kens. So like the Barbies would be like, the Kens were like being all like cheesy and lame and serenading them and all that kind of crap, and like doing like hyper man things, like, oh, you know, someone's like, oh,
cooking outdoors.
You know, cooking outdoors. You know, someone's like, oh, I don't know how to use Photoshop, and one of the Kens swoops in, and is like, well, let me tell you how to do it. You know, like, let me mansplain all that. You know, they doing all that kind of stuff, and so in order to sort of change the situation, the Barbies start like, while they're with one Ken, they're acting like they're texting another Ken. And then they're getting all the Kens mad at each other, because they're like, wait, why is your Barbie texting my Barbie? And I'm like, I don't understand why you're doing that. Like, it's actually, you're now just being mean. Like, you're using kind of weird, mean tactics to get your way. And I think that was one of my big problems with the movie, is like, I'm not on anybody's side throughout this entire movie. Like, I'm not on Ken's side, I'm not on Barbie's side, I'm not on Mattel's side, I'm not on the mother's side, I'm not on the daughter's side. I'm on nobody's side, because everyone is in some way just being kind of a dick the whole time.
That is such an odd conclusion for a movie.
Yeah.
To have.
It was odd. It was odd.
Like, what was it? What's the audience for this? It seems like it's for adults, but it's not really for adults.
My take on the audience for this is like, this film was made with like nostalgia in mind for millennials, because in some ways it reminded me of Super Mario Brothers from 1993. That movie has nothing to do with Super Mario.
Right. Yeah. As we all know, famously.
And is not a kids' film.
Yeah.
And kids watching that thinking they're going to watch Super Mario Brothers are confused.
Absolutely.
Monkey! And that's what this was for me. I was just so confused, because I was like, how is this for kids? This doesn't seem like, and what I mean by how is this for kids, not that like the message, it's not about the messaging, but it's about the way it's delivered. It's like, would a kid even be interested in what is happening on screen right now, or would they just be bored? Like, I would probably be bored as a kid watching this, because I'm like, you know, once they leave Barbie Land and they're in the real world, there's no fun for a kid watching this, in my opinion. There's a couple of good jokes here and there, but like, there's no fun. I'm like, this is just, I don't know, and I don't know really what the message is, because for me it came across as, you know, yes, patriarchy is awful. Yes, but their domination is also not good, and they don't really sort of address the problem of each world's in some way having some sort of subjugation in the past. And it was just a really
it is odd what you're telling me. I haven't seen the movie, obviously. So I'm just trying to catch and gather these pieces together. But when you say that at the end of the movie they bring Barbie Land the way it was, So, you know, the Barbies are the main characters. They're the ones with all the power, and then it's like,
Yeah.
and the Kens are like that. What's running through my mind is that kind of the point, because that's what the Barbie world is? Because, you know, I mean, even when I was playing with Barbies with my cousin,
Mm.
you know, back in the day, the Kens were not very exciting or important. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No.
And I get that, but at the same time, as a message, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm also confused, despite not
Yeah.
having seen the film. It is a
Yeah.
bit of a confusing thing to.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like, I
I
would
don't
again like
understand.
messaging wise and like character arc wise, I would have thought, okay, you know, you need to resolve this in a better way, and they
Do you
just
feel like it
didn't.
was a joke? Like that's the whole joke,
I don't know. I really don't. Like
right?
basically I feel like it was just a really sloppy script with
That's interesting. Yeah.
some funny moments. Stylistically, it's interesting to look at, and Barbie World is really fun to look at
Mm-hmm.
and sort of walk through. But it's for me, everything was so superficial
Mm-hmm.
that it's Barbie wants to become real in the end. That came out, like I said, that came out of nowhere.
So yeah, so she's
Ken's
just like, I want to
Ken
become
doesn't
real.
really get any sort of resolve at the end. He's just gonna go find himself. Well, what does that mean? Are we going to acknowledge or do anything about the fact that we don't know where the Kens don't have any places to live? There's Barbie's dream house, but there's no Ken's house, right? So it's you know what I mean? It's like, what are you gonna do
Right.
with this? It's a weird sort of like you didn't quite take it the distance with your commentary, and the commentary as is so wildly uneven because it's
That's confusing. That's
yeah
confusing. I have not seen the movie, and I'm
yeah
just confused. I'm baffled. I'm confused, and I'm genuinely, neutrally confused.
yeah
Very
because the other
confusing.
thing that's really bizarre to me is like when Barbie first meets the daughter, which happens in a high school.
Right.
There's this whole thing about how like all women love each other and they got each other's backs and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's kind of this like recognition of like, oh, maybe, but kind of, but yes, but no, but But the first meeting that Barbie has with the daughter happens in the school, and Barbie's like, oh, I'm Barbie, I'm I'm here to talk to you, because the Barbie thinks it's the daughter at first that she needs to see, and when the daughter is listening to Barbie, she gets really angry, and then she just like. She doesn't know Barbie. She thinks Barbie is actually like a woman, like a real person, just in like a costume. She just goes off on Barbie with this and it's like a personal attack on Barbie because it's Barbie. But she goes on this personal attack on her, just berating her and cutting her down, and calling her fascist and all this kind of stuff. And then Margot, or the character Barbie, just starts breaking down and crying and runs away. And I'm just sort of like, that was really mean. And the thing is, the daughter doesn't do anything in the movie to redeem herself.
But what was the point of that? Like, I know I haven't seen the movie, but
The point of it was just the point of it was to like, that was the movie's commentary on the history of Barbie. So they just had to do it, and they did it through this angsty teenager. But really, if you look at it, this teenager was just being really nasty to just some stranger who was being nice to her. And then that teenager doesn't redeem herself from being a jackass at any point in the
Right.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for me, that is one of
So
the
that's
overall.
that's like the sloppiness that you're talking about.
Yes.
It just feels like you just put some words into a character's mouth so they can
Yeah.
say the entire thing, and we move on. We move on with the.
Yeah, because like the last thing I'll
with the
say
rest
is
of
like
the
there's
story.
like this, a part of the plot of like having to go back to Barbie Land is because of Ken's stuff, and the Mattel people are like, oh, we gotta stop Ken because this is screwing things up as well. So Will Ferrell and like the entire board, like if you watch the trailer, you can see that board scene, right?
Yeah, I saw
The
that.
entire board goes to Barbie Land, but for everyone else, it takes them about 5 seconds to get to Barbie Land. For some reason, they set off for Barbie Land, I think before or maybe right after Barbie goes back. Yeah, right
Mm-hmm.
after Barbie goes back, they go. Barbie arrives, and a whole bunch of stuff happens. And I remember sitting there, I turned to Claire, and I was like, "Where's Will Ferrell?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know. That's a good point."
Oh.
And then when Will Ferrell suddenly arrives, they arrive for one scene. Well, where there's like a big fight going on, and then they just disappear again.
Okay.
And then they reappear at the very end, and there's this big sort of like speech Will Ferrell gives about how he's like kind of learned something and he's changed from this experience or something like that. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like,
When did this happen? When did this happen?
yeah. And I'm also
No one tells me anything.
I'm
Yeah.
also like, okay, well, why did you even go to Barbie Land in the first place? Like, you had a reason to go, and that reason wasn't fulfilled.
Yeah. What are they doing? Like suing them or something? Suing
Well,
Barbie?
no,
or
they were going to Barbie Land to stop to kind of deal with what Ken was doing, because Ken's actions in Barbie world were having effects in
right.
the real world. But by Mattel and this entire board of like 12 people going, you would have thought there would have been something, some sort of confrontation, some sort of something, and there wasn't. There was nothing. And I was like, man, that is weird. That is weird.
This movie is just sounding so bizarre to me. Like I'm
Yeah.
baffled. It just makes me feel like I probably have to see the movie now, just because I have no idea
Yeah.
what the hell is going on. you
Yeah, me
know?
neither.
Okay.
Me neither. For me, it was a below average comedy that is way overhyped, messaging all over the place. Because it's like it's at the end of the day, it's like this isn't pro feminism. It's kind of being anti feminism, but it's also anti patriarchy. So it's a very, very confused film. Very confused.
Sounds like it. Definitely
It
sounds
was.
like it.
It was. So that's my thoughts
Barbie.
on Barbie. That's my thoughts
Barbie,
on Barbie.
man. I don't know. For me, it's just the hype was huge. They were always doing the Barbenheimer thing, and
Yeah.
made me kind of not watch either movie. To be fair.
Yeah. There was something about the marketing that, was clearly really, really appealing, and I sort of get it. That marketing was appealing. There was a lot of interesting stuff that was,
Yeah.
it looked fun, and people were having a good time, and it's sort of mindless fun. If you go in without anything in your head, then you're probably not going to think anything about Barbie and just be like, oh, that was a fun time. But if you're going in and you're thinking about it, which I do, I don't abide by this idea of, oh, I just want to turn my mind off and watch something. For me, that's for stupid people. People who just want mindless entertainment are dumb people. And that's just the way it is. I want to see something. I want to be entertained by it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to think about it, whether it's a silly comedy or it's an action film or something like Oppenheimer. I want to be able to be like, oh, let's discuss. This is interesting. Which
Yeah.
kind of leads me to the next thing is like if we talk
Let's
about
do it
Ninja
finally.
Turtles.
Okay, something I did watch.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And
Gosh, man.
this for me, Ninja Turtles. I know Frank's probably thinking I'm gonna hate this film.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I kind of loved it.
Mutant Mayhem.
I kind of love Mutant Mayhem. It's I didn't really know what to expect when I went in to see it. But it just, for me, if I were to summarize everything, I would say it was the perfect length, an hour and 40
Yes.
minutes.
I think it's important. Length is now important these days.
It is important.
Like,
It was a well told story in a short-ish in a good amount of time. It didn't overstay its welcome. The score was great. The character beats were really good. Things that they were doing and saying were paying off later. That I thought that's good, clever work.
yeah.
On the writer's part, and there was an emotional layer to the movie that, like, I was like, man, this movie has way more emotional beats than Barbie. Loads.
Right.
Loads more. Um, so yeah, what did you think about what are your
I
general
can actually
thoughts?
talk about this.
And then we'll kind of go through the story a little bit.
All right. Well, for someone who hasn't seen a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff recently, like I didn't watch Rise of the Ninja Turtles. I didn't watch any of the movies of that. I didn't watch the 2009 movie that came out. I didn't.
I tried.
I
It wasn't very
begrudgingly
good.
watched the 2014 movie with you, Luke.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was horrible, and I didn't like it. So, as a kid, I loved Ninja Turtles. We watched the cartoon, so can't say I'm a fan, but I used to be a fan as a kid. I wanted to buy all the toys. I wanted to get the Turtle Man. I wanted to, I wanted all those turtles. I never got any Turtles toys, actually. I got the weird ninja ones. The ones, I mean, they're all ninjas, but like the ones that have
With the samurai suits. Yeah.
No, the ones with the odd masks. They look like humans.
Okay.
They look more humanoid.
Mm. Mm.
But I think that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is important in my life because I believe it made it made my favorite color blue because I love Leonardo.
It made my favorite color purple because of Donatello.
Amazing. We're not you and I. We're not so different. There he is. Oh, that's the one from Mutant Mayhem, isn't it?
Yes, I bought them. I
Great.
bought them before I saw them. Before I saw the film, just because
What compelled you?
I genuinely like the design.
Yeah, I like the designs too. I think
So I was like, even if this film is bad, I actually like these designs. So I bought all 4 turtles. I'm like, yeah, I'll get them.
Wow, all 4 of them. All
Yeah.
right. Well, Leo's my favorite. It's because of the katanas. When I was a kid, I was like, he got the swords. I like him. He's the leader. After that, I think I just developed this love for the color blue, and I think I have Leonardo to thank for it. So, it's no small thing because I love the color blue. Honestly, like anything, if I'll do it blue. So
Yeah.
Anyway, the movie, the style is great. The way the pacing is excellent. It goes from every point, doesn't overstay its welcome. Everyone is saying what they're supposed to be saying. There's so much. I was noticing that there is quite a bit of exposition that happens, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's not very hidden, but I'm like, who cares? I don't
Yeah.
care. I like it. It's refreshing. Like I said, as long as the exposition's interesting, I was interested. I knew the story of the turtles, but we watched it again. I was surprised that, for example, Splinter wasn't a human. I know that that's in the original. In the original,
Yes.
he's a rat, and then he mutates into it.
No, he's not. In the comics, he's just a rat. So
That's what I'm saying. In the original, he's a rat. Did
Yeah.
I say he's not a rat? Sorry.
I think so. I can't remember. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I meant in the cartoon, he's not. He's a human,
Yes.
which I prefer. I think that it has so much more depth to it. You have so much more potential for that than the
Yeah.
opposite.
But because it's the comic, I'm like, the comic is so weird. And I recently reread the original first 6 or 7 comics.
Yeah.
And it made me. I'm like, yeah, I like. It's just because it's all so weird.
It's weird.
It's all so weird. And I'm like,
Like the
yeah, I'm
title
fine with him
itself.
being a rat.
Yeah. But he tells his backstory, and it's great. And they're all. I'm constantly surprised at how well these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles can change styles, and you can tell the same story, and it's still successful and entertaining.
Yes.
I find that so interesting.
I think what's good about this movie is that, again, it's like, I would say this is probably the best Ninja Turtle movie since 1990. This one would be number 2 on the
There's
list.
not a lot of competition, is there?
Well, there is a lot of competition. There's loads of films. There's
Right.
2,
There's-
3, the animated films, the live action films. There's
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
there's a
I
lot
mean, I
of
haven't seen all
competition.
of them. All right. all right,
There's
all
a lot
right,
of,
all
but
right.
and they're not all good, for sure. But but my point is this is after with all of that in its catalog, this for me is the next best Ninja Turtle movie, I think.
Since 1990.
Since 1990, it was just
Wow.
for me. It nailed the Turtles character really well. It reminded me a little bit of, I gotta mention it, Smallville. It reminded a little bit of
Smallville.
It reminded me a little bit of Smallville because it's like, you know, April O'Neil is a kid. She's in high school. They're in high school. Instead of them working with an adult who's a news anchor or a scientist or whatnot, they've sort of like brought everyone down to the same age group and things, which is, you know, basically what Smallville did.
Right.
You know, it's like we meet young Lois Lane, we meet young Lex Luthor, and they're all
Right.
involved in each other's lives while Clark's still in high school and all that sort of
Right.
stuff.
Well,
Say again.
what I like about this is that this emphasizes the teenage and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I think that's so
Yes.
refreshing. It's so fun. I love it.
Yeah,
I love seeing them be immature together, and everyone,
Yes.
like you said, they're all on the same level playing field. April is also a high schooler, you know.
Yes.
She also has her high school problems, and
Yes.
it's just they can relate. You can relate to these things, and it's
Yeah.
just very very nice.
I like that a lot. I really did. I thought, you know, I liked it in the beginning of the movie when they set up really nicely the turtles' dilemma, and their dilemma is that
Yes.
we don't want to be sewer dwellers, we don't want to be hiding in the shadows, you know, we want to be heroes. Watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and this was something that was really
Right.
funny for me, was how the film sort of incorporates live action
Yeah.
into
yeah.
it. I
Why not?
liked it. I liked it.
Why
It was
not?
weird, and I liked it. You know, having actual Ferris Bueller playing on a movie screen, having actual stand-up cardboard cutouts of,
It
you know,
works.
Chris,
yeah.
Chris Pine. Like
Chris Pine.
they
Look
were,
at my eyebrows.
yeah, like they were really. It was really funny gags, and
Yeah.
and I like that stuff. But I like that, you know, the turtles are all like, this is what we want. We want to be. We don't want to have to hide. We want to be able to go out in public. We want to be able to do stuff. We want to go in high school. We want to be, you know, and I thought, you know, I really felt a really good emotional resonance from the turtles at that stage. Okay, this is their journey, and
And I was surprised. You go on. Sorry.
yeah, so this is their journey. I'm like, where are they going to go? Are they going to achieve it and not achieve it? And there was that, for me, there was that really great bit towards the end of the movie where they were like, you know, look, we thought we want to be in the public eye. We
Mhm.
want people to recognize us as heroes, but actually they just see us as mutants and monsters, and they're going to be scared of us. And, you know, but, you know, look, we still should be heroes. And I thought, that's great. That is a great character arc for
That happened with
these.
April as well. She was
Yes.
all of their motivations at the beginning. They were all kind of selfish,
Yes.
and as they go through the story, by the
Yes.
end of it, they realize that these goals, while yes, it's wonderful to want to be accepted, but if you're just doing it for selfish reasons and you don't care about the betterment of others,
Yes.
then you're throwing that away to do the right thing. And I find that great. April did the same thing. She's, you know, getting all this information. She's interested in them. Why? Just because she wants to get this Pulitzer Prize or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
be the Queen of Manhattan's, you know, reporting syndicate or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I did. I really liked that stuff. I thought it was. I also thought that the humor, generally the humor was really good. I laughed a number of times throughout this movie.
It's a lot
there
of
was just-
Zoomer humor, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. It was fun and funny, and it wasn't like, you know, when I think back to like the 2014 movies, like all of the humor in that was just dumb humor. It was dumb Michael Bay dumb humor.
Right.
And
yeah.
I hated it. I hate those movies. Whereas this, you know, it's been a while since I've seen anything that like Seth Rogen has done, and Seth Rogen wrote this along with a couple other people, Evan Goldberg and Jeff Rowe, and Jeff Rowe's the one of the directors. And I think what was working for me so well with this is there was that sort of throwback, that sort of comedy style that reminded me of things like a bit, but not a teenage version, like 40-Year-Old Virgin or Super Bad. Those sort of early 2000s kind of teen R-rated teen comedies. You know,
I haven't seen any of them.
they're great, and you need to go see them now, because what are you doing?
I don't know.
So it was fun to kind of feel that style as sort of part of the ingredients of this, because I think that really helped.
I think it works really well. I think it's also so appropriate because these kids are teenagers, you know,
Yeah.
and there's four of them, and anyone who's had like siblings knows the banter and the fact that you just knows the feeling of being part of a group of, you know, in your family, like in a direct family, and you know that stuff like that just comes out of you anyway, and incorporating that kind of brand of humor
Yeah.
just fits right in. It's logical, it makes sense, and it's great to see, you know, characters like this bounce off each other, which is the one thing in the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My favorite
Mhm.
moment in that is
The
when they're going
elevator
up the
scene.
elevator. Yeah, and it's like they didn't do. Otherwise, it's kind of like
Yeah.
not real. But this was the elevator scene the entire movie, and
Yeah.
I was always engaged in what they're
Yeah.
talking about and what their, you know, what their wants and desires and things that they don't like are, and, you know,
Yeah.
just how they're hanging out as siblings.
I also like that, like, character-wise, it was fun that like Leonardo was the one who kind of had the hots for April, as opposed
Yeah.
to it always
Being
being
Mikey?
Mikey.
Was it always Mikey?
You know,
Yeah.
it's always in all, even in the, I mean, I love the originals, the original movies, but Mikey's, and that just sort of became the stereotypical thing. Is Mikey's the one who's always like a bit of the most immature, the most this, the most that, and always in love with April and blah 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 blah. And so I like that this film sort of steered clear of that. Like Mikey was fun,
They
and he
mixed
was
it up.
funny, and he wasn't like, he was fun and funny, but he wasn't frustrating or ditzy or, you know, absurdly immature. Like they were all kind of equally immature, which was a nice kind of, as they all were bouncing off each other, which I liked that. But it wasn't, his immaturity wasn't getting in the way of things. I didn't
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I appreciated it for that, for sure.
I think it's rare to get all of their rapport that strong and
Yeah.
identifiable. I think,
Yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
look at them as individuals and you're like, yeah, Leo's this, Leo's that, and it's fluid. I don't know how I'm describing this. It's a little bit weird what I'm saying, but it just they blended together, so like they blended together well, like a unit. Like
Yeah.
like a unit
However,
of
the
bros.
voice actors connected or worked together on this, they did an incredible job, because they sold the characters very well. Very
Do you
well.
remember
So-
do you remember before the movie came out and there was the trailer, and then, you know, some people heard how Donatello sounds like, and he's like, he sounds like a kid, he sounds like a child, and I'm like, teenagers, that's what they sound like.
They're 15. They're meant to be 15.
Some of them, you know, some of their voices drop really low early on, some don't, and
Yeah.
that's how it's supposed to be. I'm like, that's what I like about it. You're emphasizing
Yeah.
the teenage in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Everyone else, like most of the other ones, are just the ninja part.
Yeah, it's like,
Or
go
in Britain,
watch-
if you're heroes, you're just heroes. You're not ninjas.
well, that's no longer the case anymore. They're ninjas. They're
No,
ninjas
good,
here.
good,
They're ninjas
good,
here.
good.
It's a bit like Goonies. I guess this is like Ninja Turtles meets Smallville meets the Goonies. You know, it's actual kids in the
Yeah.
roles doing the things, and you get that kind of childlike, you get that preteen, early teen kind of excitement from them, which I thought was refreshing.
And I was surprised going into the movie. I didn't know what point in time this was going to take place. Was it the very beginning, or was it, you know, were they already established? And I was surprised and pleasantly surprised at how they took the fact that when they start, they're ninjas, and I was thinking, how did they turn into ninjas if I just found out that, you know, all they do is go get groceries, and I'm like, how do they get
Yeah.
groceries? They steal it, because
Yeah.
that's, and I thought, is that why they turn into, is that why they were trained as ninjas, because they can be stealthy and they can steal all this stuff in grocery stores? But then, you know, and then Splinter talks about why he decided, which was interesting, because that's a completely different
Let's talk about Splinter. Let's talk about
way.
Splinter.
Okay, it's very
Because-
different Splinter.
It is a very different Splinter, and I kind of liked it. I didn't mind. It was kind of. We're all used to Splinter being this wise old man, and in this movie, Splinter has a journey of his own, which
I liked it. I liked the journey of his own.
Yes.
I will say that I did miss the wise old man Splinter a little bit.
I kinda
And
did a little
I
bit.
missed the my children turtles.
Yes, but
You
for me,
must
it's like
learn the art.
we've had that. Like
I know we
we've had it, and you know they
I
tried it.
know.
They kind of poorly did it in the newer ones and stuff. So I was fine with a slightly different take on Splinter, but yeah, it was that early in the movie where they're doing the stealing bit, and they're like, you know, oh, to talk to humans is means you're gonna die, because
Yeah, stuff like that, because like that was this huge sort of like disconnect between all the rest of the humans, and I just realized they didn't even fight anybody yet.
Yeah,
They didn't
and
use
it was
their. I was interested.
Yeah, and it was funny because like Leonardo's like, well, I know that's kind of prejudice, but that's just what Dad taught us. So, oh well.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it sets up this interesting problem with Splinter. It's like, okay, Splinter is a rat. People hate rats.
Yeah.
Everyone hates mice, hates rats. They do, and he's lived his whole life being feared and hated.
Yeah.
I'm like, interesting. And so his whole thing is, yeah, they're going to hate you. They're not going to be nice to you. So, and they're going to want to kill you because that's my experience with humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that's his whole sort of problem. And he's like, I don't want you to go up above. I want you to stay down here. And I thought that was a fascinating twist on that character. I liked it because I liked how he was sort of his dilemma.
And that's the reason why he trained them as ninjas to defend themselves.
Yes.
Not necessarily, and also have something to do and discipline and stuff, but mostly just to defend themselves from the humans.
Yeah.
From going out there.
And I also liked how his dilemma, Splinter's dilemma, is also then mirrored in Superfly.
Superfly.
And then Splinter sort of realizes the error of his ways, and I'm like, this was cool. That was a really.
I didn't expect that was gonna happen.
Neither did I.
By the end of it.
Neither did I, and I thought that was really, really refreshing.
And what I liked about this whole story is I didn't realize what the challenge was gonna be. Obviously, it started off as Superfly. Got it. There's all the newscasts at the beginning, as the turtles are stealing stuff and. We're learning more about them, but we see on the TV, this criminal known as Superfly is using other small-time crooks to collect these things to make it. But before that, the beginning of the movie had this whole thing with the Dr. Baxter, I think his name was, where there's this organization's taking this ooze from him, and are those the bad guys, or is Superfly? Who's the Superfly? I understood because I know that there was a fly character in the original, like in the TV show. I remember that. So it wasn't a surprise to me, but I didn't know who were the bad guys necessarily, because once they meet Superfly and his family, it just turned me to a loop, because I was like, wait a second, of course it's so logical that they would kind of be like, you're a mutant as well, I'm a mutant, and it just went off into a different place that I was expecting.
I really liked it. I liked that.
And I also liked how it just developed from there, where they kind of become friends a little bit, but then they realize what Superfly's doing.
Yes.
And then I thought, okay, well then they're gonna be the bad guys, right? It doesn't really happen that way.
That's subverted, which is also fun.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, Bebop, Rocksteady, they're gonna be,
enemies.
I guess they were in the live action movie, sure, but maybe they'll be, they'll fight again. But it was interesting that this one, they subverted that, and it's like, oh no, they're actually all going to like team up with the Turtles against Superfly, which was fun. The other thing I also really appreciated with this movie was that it wasn't. They didn't just go back to Shredder.
Okay, I wanted to bring this up because this is sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but this was one of the main things I wanted to come in and tell you about. This movie entertained me so much. Yeah. That when there's a little post credits when the lab professor says, "Find me the Shredder," and I was like, "Damn! I've totally forgot about Shredder. I completely forgot he was even. I was thinking, who else is a villain in Ninja Turtles? I don't know. I guess Krang. I think she's gonna see Krang, Shredder, and I was like, I was so entertained by the movie that I completely forgot about Shredder.
I mean, I did not forget about Shredder. The whole time I was watching this, I was like, thank God They just didn't do another Shredder. Thank God. I mean, there was references to Shredder. That, you know, when Superfly became Super Duper Fly, I was like, oh, that's just
What?
like Super Shredder.
Right, yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's so funny how I just completely forgot about Shredder. I
yeah,
completely didn't, and I thought that that's to the film's credit because they
yeah,
actually managed to make a story that didn't rely on the same.
yeah. And I like that. I like that this movie, unlike the other, the more recent live action ones, and to some extent the original ones, you know, I give 1990 a pass because it's the first one, and they did such a good job just with the characters of that movie, and that story is so good and so dark, and I love it. And that fight with Shredder and Splinter, and it's basically just like it's the comic. Ninja Turtles 1, 1990
Mm-hmm.
is the first couple issues of the original run, and it's just great. And so I love that for that. But I really like that this one just started to embraced the weirdness of the Ninja Turtle world.
Yeah,
With
it's reflective in
Superfly,
in the art style.
it's reflective in the art style, but with their choice of villains, it's just like they just went for it, and I was like, God, this is nice. I'm not, you know, because the plot is basically X-Men. It's Superfly wants to use Big Machine
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah. I was
mute,
thinking the
yeah,
lizard from Spider-Man, but
or that, yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man.
It's kind of like his supervillain plan is kind of a generic supervillain plan, but it's hung on such a, it's used on a framework that, you know, that had so much excitement to it that I didn't care about that. You know what, people use this kind of storyline all the time, but the way they're doing the characters, the way they're doing,
Yeah.
you know, they're not. It's not just, we're not saying it's not X-Men 3 where it's just Magneto again,
Yeah.
mutant war, blah 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 blah.
That's
blah.
all he does in
Yeah,
X-Men 3. There's a war coming. There's a
yeah,
war coming. There's a
yeah,
war coming.
yeah. And
This
it's
one
like,
has
okay, move on.
this one has Superfly
Mm,
expressing himself about why he feels this way, you
mm.
know?
Well,
And
that was the
it's
thing.
simple, but it's also great. I don't
Well, that
the way that they tell the story is good and
yeah.
fun and it works. I
Well, and
think.
that was the thing. Like with Superfly, what I was was most interested in me about this movie, or one of the many things interested me about this movie, especially comparing it to Barbie, is I'm like, the message of this movie is so much stronger, and will resonate with kids so much better
Mhm.
than that whole fucking mess that is Barbie, because
Okay.
this whole movie is about prejudice.
Yeah.
It is, and again, this is where it's, you know, it's very very X-Men. It's very
Mhm.
X-Men in that you have, you know, the good mutants and the bad mutants, and they're both learning to deal with their prejudice, and they don't want to be, you
Mhm.
know, they don't want to be, you know, outcasts. They don't want to be
Yeah,
frowned
yeah.
upon. But they're also, you know, using their abilities for the greater good of the world,
Mhm.
um, and learning to, like, you know, look past other people's prejudice towards them, and you know, do the right thing in spite
Do the
of,
right thing. Yeah.
and I thought, you know what, God, that is, it's like it's a really simple storyline, it's a really simple theme, but it's also one that I just feel I don't see a lot of now, or in recent years,
Yeah.
and handled in such a good way. Like, I think back to, like, the MCU, like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a fucking asshole. Like, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a brat the entire time. For me, he's never redeemed as a good. He's just a brat. He's just a
Mhm.
smart aleck brat. And I'm like, God, like, can you, you know? And so it was nice to just see these turtles, these kids, actual kids, learning, like, kind of doing a coming of age, learning to be adults, you know, and putting themselves aside, and, you know, yeah, it was, for me, it was a really good movie. I was surprised by it. I also really loved the music.
Yeah. I like the music choices. I like the
Yeah,
song choices in it
not
too.
even the song choices. The score. I really liked the score, because
Mhm.
the score was like this fun sort of like, it was like, it was kind of like 80s techno synth retro stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
it, it it wasn't as, like, hammy as, say, like, Stranger Things techno synth. um
It
it
wasn't
just
in your face so
it
much.
wasn't, no, it wasn't. And I was like, man, I got to listen to the soundtrack the minute I'm done watching this movie, because like it was everything
Right.
for me was working. Everything. The
Yeah.
characters are working, the style. What did you think about the style? Because some
Loved
of the
it. Style was
style
great.
is some of the characters have like kind of wonky looking faces. They're not like, no one is like, except for a few characters, no one is like what you would say like perfectly drawn.
Yeah.
There were some people who are a bit weird looking, and like, for example, like when there's like lights flashing, there's like these scribble marks
Squiggles. Yeah.
and things like that. And it's yeah, what describe the style and what you thought of it.
Well, as you know, across no, Into the Spider-Verse kind of
Yes,
opened
that
up
movie
a lot of
I have no interest in
possibilities.
seeing.
It's good. I still very much like it. I watch it like I've seen Into the Spider-Verse at least, not the new one, the 2018 one.
Yeah.
I've
Oh
seen
no,
it
I
at
mean the
least.
new one. I have no interest in the new one. I don't know why. I just don't care.
I'm not gonna make you watch it. Um, it's well, they opened up like a kind of Pandora's box of sorts where they showed, because it took them, I don't know, 5 years to kind of develop this sort of technique to
Yeah.
do something stylized to make CG look like something that's not just the Pixar look as everyone calls it. And so this is
Yeah.
just this is a result of that, and I think
Yeah.
that's great because this tried its own thing, and it was muddy and it was squiggly and scraggly and it looked like claymation. Frank's here. Wow, look at that.
I don't
It
want to
looks like-
see Across the Spider-Verse.
So it was it has that muddy
I'm not
feel.
going
It
to
felt
see
like clay. It
Across
felt
the
like clay.
Spider-Verse.
Okay, it felt like claymation. It was very lovingly crafted. In fact,
Stop
I
motion,
feel
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I feel like the look of it relates to the theme of it, which is wonderful. because
Juvenile.
It's like,
Yeah.
not just that, but also, this is a whole thing about, like you said, about prejudice. It's not about how people look; it's about who they are
Mm.
inside. So I think the distorted-looking characters and the kind of ugliness of it, kind of puts it, kind of gives it some kind of
Yeah.
resonance to the story they're telling, which is always great. And
Yeah.
it also reminded me of like '90s Nickelodeon,
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, it
which
did.
is also
That
fun.
yeah.
Especially for
I
people.
loved it. I at first when I started watching, I was like, ooh, am I gonna really embrace this style? Is it going to work for me? And it really didn't take long at all for me to get on board.
Hey, there you go.
Really
Yeah.
didn't take long at all. I mean, like, within the first couple of minutes, I was like, nope, this is good. I'm digging it.
Nope, this is good. Checked
Yep.
off.
You
It's
know,
good.
seriously, this is probably the first. What have I seen this year? What have I seen? This is probably the
You know what?
first movie.
You're asking me. I don't even know what I've seen this year. I can just remember to the last time I went to the theater, and that was to watch Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, because like I guess
else
I've
is
seen
there?
Super Mario, and I guess it's funny. The two films that I've probably enjoyed the most at the cinema have been Super Mario and this.
Sorry, I'm just reading Frank's comments. It's great.
Yeah, well, I love
great.
this movie, Frank. If you weren't here for the earlier bit of the conversation, I am all on board for Mutant Mayhem. I thought it was terrific. I thought it was a wonderful film. I thought the characters were so well done. I love the story. I love the character arcs. And I know Frank mentioned something about on Twitter that it was that I was going to maybe complain about the story because it wasn't that I wasn't. That it wasn't like that clever or something along those lines. I can't remember for sure, but like no man, like yeah, it's kind of the plot of X-Men and a few other bits. There are some like cliche bits, but it didn't bother me, not one bit. I loved Superfly. I loved him he was a fun villain.
Yeah,
his
yeah.
his family situation was fun, and that was unique. So it's like I don't give a shit if the ultimate plan is to mutate everyone. That's fine. That's a good supervillain plan. All supervillains just want to either take over the world or destroy the world. So that's fine. I'm fine with that.
I was gonna say, I think that good stories, it doesn't. It's not required for you to reinvent the wheel as long as you
No.
make the wheel
circular.
smooth. And kind of yeah. So
Yeah, no,
think that's
I
kinda how it is.
agree. And again, like, I will say, the only thing, and we've sort of touched upon this, the only thing that I was a little bit like, was that we didn't need the Batman post-credit scene.
I liked it.
I know you liked it, and I didn't.
Because I totally,
didn't,
Frank, I totally forgot about Shredder the entire movie, and then I was thinking, what other villains are there in Turtles? I can't remember, Krang or something. And then she says Shredder, and I was genuinely shocked. I went, whoa, totally forgot. It's just that was a personal thing, but still,
yeah.
That's what made me kind of biased towards that last.
I would have been fine with. I didn't mind the post-credit scenes. With like the high school stuff, and I didn't mind the post-credit scene with the woman. The only thing I didn't need was for them to say Shredder and show his outline or his silhouette. You know, I thought, mainly because I was just so happy. I was just so happy that for once this film it was a Ninja Turtles movie that didn't rely on Shredder, and I was just that was such a relief. You know, I mean, Ninja Turtles 1 is great. Ninja Turtles 2 goes back to Shredder and is kind of shit. Ninja Turtles 3 is terrible. Then all of the animated ones do Shredder again. The newer live action ones do Shredder again. So it was like, I don't need any more Shredder for a while.
Okay.
So that's why I was so happy this film just didn't even do it. And I thought, Shredder is basically the Joker for the Ninja Turtles.
He is, absolutely, 100%.
You could have had the Sting at the end without giving Shredder away exactly. You could have Shredder in the next one, but like, I'm not sure we entirely needed it, but because I'm also kind of like, maybe it'd be fun to see him fight someone else in the sequel. Don't know. What's Frank saying?
I'm not very familiar with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles gallery of bad guys. I just know Shredder, Krang, Fly Man. I don't know if he's Superfly in the old show or not, but that's it really. I don't know anymore.
There's so many weird people in that universe. That it's like anything is fine.
I just love the turtles. They're just. I remember that
fun.
one scene where they're talking in bed, and they all have their little
phones and stuff
on. That's great. That's
great. Really tons of sweet moments. Like I love that moment in the beginning monologue of Splinters, where he's kind of retelling the story and stuff like that. And I've already named Smallville and Star Trek.
He did.
I haven't named Spider-Man 2 or Star Trek, but
well, now he did. Now you did.
Now I have. That moment where Splinter is putting them to bed, and one of the turtles like squeaks at him, and then there's the next scene where like all the turtles they're all like cuddled together sleeping, and I thought, oh, that's so sweet. And I felt a genuine like love from Splinter for these kids of his, and it was just
Splinter's also a broken man,
Yeah,
you could feel that.
It was really, really sweet.
A broken rat.
A broken rat. And I also really enjoyed there's so many beats with the turtles that I thought was great. Their relationship, that moment where they're, the last face I don't want to see before I die is you guys. And then there's this scene like, no, I said that I didn't want to see your faces before I die. And just that stuff was great. That stuff was great. And like, I know we mentioned earlier, like two things I want to mention for sure is like in terms of this is where like the writing for me was lit, and it was earlier in the movie. There's this moment where they make jokes about Mark Ruffalo improvising some Avengers shit, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I don't care they're talking about the Avengers. Like it's a cultural, it's a pop cultural thing, right? So it makes sense. Like it's not like
feels weird to me. It feels odd.
Why?
To me.
They're watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's set in the world. It's fine.
It's just so
fine.
weird. It's just
fine.
weird.
Multiverse. It's fine. So I love that when they said that, and it wasn't that they said that, but it was that at the end of the movie they're like, Donnie, like, what does Mark Ruffalo do? What's he good at that you're good at? Improvising, right? And so it's like, that for me is like, that's good writing because they've said something that feels like an off the cuff random joke, and it's like, oh, this is just a silly joke, and then later in the movie they use it to springboard and fulfill something. And I thought, for me, I was like, oh, that's good. They thought that through and loved it. What else? And then also, because also with Donnie with the Attack on Titan, like when they're in the school and he sees it, like, oh my god, this person understands me more than anybody. They don't even know me. You know, like I thought, okay, you know, in the moment you're like, oh, this is just one of those, like, he's just being silly because he's a bit of a nerdy guy. But then when it comes back, it's like, oh god, they were really trying to be smart about what they were doing, what they were saying. Even April, I liked April's sort of when she said, you know, she's puke girl, and we find out why she's puke girl, and then she goes in front of the camera and she overcomes her fears for about 90 seconds.
Yeah, and then
pukes
and
again,
it happens again.
And then she's like, oh, that was from from another time. You know, it was funny.
The past, I thought I'd
past
get
life,
it over with by now.
Yeah. And I like that stuff. There was a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed. This is, for me, like, this will be a film that when it is, I will buy the 4K of this film. I want to own this film, and that to me is like the sign of a film that I definitely enjoyed, and wouldn't mind seeing again, and wouldn't mind showing to my own kiddo.
Of course, yeah.
As long as she likes this crap.
Yeah, that's the big question.
She might not. She might not. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I'm like, yeah, do a sequel. I'm all for a sequel to this movie.
I hope they're as genuine with the sequel as they were with this. That's the only thing that I want to.
Yeah.
The only thing that I didn't like is I just didn't. I mean, not that I didn't like it. Splinter is a bit. I just missed the old ninja master Splinter.
Yeah.
That's it, really.
Yeah, it was definitely the most interesting deviation from what we know of the Turtles, to turn him into sort of a goofball dad. And you know, I liked it, but at the same time, that was the one thing that took me a while to get behind. Is that one thing? You know, I didn't care that April O'Neil was a kid in high school. I was like, yeah, it's kind of fun. You know, that's cool. But yeah, I was sort of like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
They got milked.
That
was a good one too. It's like, you're gonna get milked, and I thought that's a joke, and then they do get milked.
And then they do get milked. That was fun. I liked that a lot. That was funny.
Are any of the characters from Brundlefly, Superfly's team, are they from the show or anything, or
I remember some of them from I have seen them in the past in other things. I'm pretty sure they're all rogues.
Okay.
The turtle van. Talk about the turtle van. It's a van and it has a
van.
pizza on it, and it was cool.
That's it. There we go.
I liked the van. It was fine. It was cool. I don't have anything to say about the van. I don't know. What do you want me to say about the van?
I was shocked that the voice of Superfly was Ice Cube.
Oh yes.
That didn't sound anything like him. It was just crazy.
I mean, was it Did they do anything to his voice a little bit? I mean,
no. He just completely. Yeah, I don't know. Like, his singing voice is different than his acting voice, apparently. So, because I just think of Angry Man. for when it's Ice Cube, I think Angry Man who frowns all the time.
Yeah. yeah. I wasn't Ice Cube in
Anaconda? Yes.
No, wasn't he in Rick and Morty? I think he was in Rick and Morty. I can't remember now. But anyway, yeah, I don't care. But no, he's good. Paul Rudd stole the show. I did find it funny in the credits. They're like introducing Paul Rudd as.
Yeah, what the hell? What?
It was like that's got to be a joke, right? Like what's the yeah? I did find that really.
Did he maybe he's introduced because that's the first time he did voice acting?
That cannot be the first time that Paul Rudd has done voice acting. I do not believe that for a second. I'm sure he's done something. Must have done. Pull it up, Jamie.
Must
Someone in the chat tell
must
us.
have done.
Who did who's been? So Frank's been here. Oh, Biffer. Biffer's here. Hey, oh, Biffer.
Biffer.
The legend Luke and Phil are back. We are back. Like
Talking about turtles and actually loving a movie.
Actually, and also, actually loving a comic book movie.
Yes, that's right.
A comic book movie. And I think sort of. I think people kind of maybe don't think about the Ninja Turtles as a comic book franchise as much because it's so ingrained.
Yeah, because it's like a multimedia.
Yeah, it's like people know it from cartoons and from films now more than I think they do the comics. And yeah, so it's one of those odd ones. Like I don't really think of it as a comic book movie, but actually this is a damn good comic book movie. Yeah, this is the first Luke-approved movie since 20. That's not true. We're forgetting about Top Gun Maverick. I love Top Gun Maverick. Come on, jeez.
So I guess I Want My TV Now says it's a deep inside joke about the producer's cut of Halloween 6, introducing Paul Rudd, apparently.
Oh, okay, yeah, that is. I'm not a Halloween fan, so that went way over my head, but I liked it. Yeah. In general, yeah, I thought the cast of this movie was great.
Jackie Chan.
Did you like Jackie Chan?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. Yes, I like Jackie Chan.
I did too. I liked it a lot. What did you think of? That's where I'm going to get in trouble. What did you think of the character design of April O'Neil? Let me add on to this asterisk. I was really happy that April was black because she was black in the comics. So
That's the original one.
She was in the comics she was originally black and
so they whitewashed her. They whitewashed her in the cartoon.
They did. I mean they changed her in the comics as well. So they made her white in the comics eventually as well.
Interesting.
But in the original one, she was black because I think she was based off of one of the creators, either girlfriend at the time or wife or something like that. But what did you think of her design?
I don't have any. I liked it. I felt like it was fine. I also felt like it's nice to see different shapes. You know what I mean? Just with certain people, because we always have the same kind of there's always that like social idealized standard, and I feel like this is real. This is a real kid. That you just find on on the street. Like where you just randomly just bump into somebody and you never they seem kind of you would normally like just be like, oh, that's just a normal bystander walking by, and you wouldn't think that they would become so integral to like your life and your you know what I mean. So it just feels I like that sort of just not April O'Neil from the cartoon. With the jump.
Interesting.
Though I do like the jumpsuit. The jumpsuit's cool.
And the jumpsuit is very cartoon. That's very very cartoon. She wasn't really jumpsuiting in the original. In the original comic, she starts off as a scientist. Yep.
Really.
She starts off working with I think it's Baxter. I
also,
think her and Baxter are
her
working.
and Baxter.
I think it's the same guy. I'd have to double check. But yeah, she.
I liked April's. I could see her pimples sometimes. And it was just like, yes, teenagers. Just come on.
I mean that didn't bother me. That was fine.
It was
great. It's still a little frumpy, and I'm like, well, it's fine. It's an okay design, but it's there is a part of me that's like, I mean, it's very 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 different to Megan Fox. Not that I hate Megan Fox as April O'Neil.
Megan Fox. That's just Megan Fox in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie.
Yeah.
It's just Megan Fox.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. But not go on.
Wasn't she like a Conan? Now you didn't see it, but maybe Frank has, or Biffer might have in the chat. The Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We had April and she was a ninja as well or something. I don't know.
Wait, Rise of the what?
Rise of the TMNT, right? That's the cartoon, the newest
Is it?
one.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't.
Was it?
watch
Isn't
the
it? Or is it Teenage
cartoons.
TMNT Rise or something like that?
No idea.
Never mind.
No idea. No idea. No clue.
Never mind.
No clue. I don't. Yeah, I don't pay attention to the cartoons. There's some of the I've seen designs from some of the newer cartoons, and they look kind of rubbish.
I heard from friends that it was a really good cartoon.
Maybe. But the designs, whatever. There's a design in my head that's from kind of recent-ish cartoon. I don't know which one, but I remember thinking, these just look dumb. These look dumb, and so I've sort of been But I don't watch the cartoons. I don't have time for that. If I did,
I don't have time for cartoons as we talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, for an hour. No, I'm kidding.
Frank says, "Hey Phil, pull it up, Jamie." So I guess pull it up, like whatever. You can share it if you want. If you want to find these designs that you're talking about.
Oh, is that what it was? Sorry, okay.
So we can know what you're talking about, because I'm like, I don't know. Like I could look for something, but I don't know if it'd actually be it would actually be the same thing.
Oh no, she has like a bat. Sorry, never mind. She has
bat. Who?
She has a bat that glows, and I don't understand. I've not seen it, so yeah. Anyway, here. Let me send you the link.
Biffer.
Great
says,
podcast material.
Yeah, Biffer says my favorite April O'Neil was Paige Turco in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze. She is my least favorite.
Secret of the Ooze. When was that?
Did you say which one is that?
Yeah, was it like the second movie?
That's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
2, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Sort of gives it away.
I'm trying to get this link to you, Luke. Jeez.
I thought you were just gonna put it up. How do you? Can I like?
How do I put it up? I don't have control over this thing like you do.
Yeah. No, I don't hate her. She's just my least favorite. There's a big difference.
Yeah, it's just because she's like a copy of the first.
Yeah, no, she's
April.
in 2 and 3, but 3 is just an abysmal film. Ninja Turtles 3: Turtles in Time is just disgusting.
I was so bored watching that movie.
Yeah.
I practically forgot most of it.
Yeah, no, it's a sham. Just utter garbage.
It's a sham.
It is.
It's a sham.
God, it's just
It's a
awful. I do hate 3. 3 is a bad movie. 3 is a bad movie. Oh yeah, the design's fine, I guess. I don't know, it's fine. I'm not gonna bother bringing it up. I don't care.
Okay.
Yes, I do dislike 3 very much. For me, like I don't. Was it last year that we watched Turtles 2?
Yes. And 3.
And yeah, and I
we
remember
watched
being.
3.
We did, didn't we? Shit, yeah, we did.
Yeah. Because I've
And I
never
just-
seen it.
Yeah, and I just remember thinking, I used to love 2 as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm like, no, it's not very good. It has its
Dude,
moments.
I used to love Dot and the Whale when I was a kid, and I watched it today, and it was awful. Like these past few years. You don't even know what that is.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Exactly.
What's Dot and the Whale?
It's an Australian production from the 1970s. It's just about save the whales, and it's interesting because some of the 2D material, it's a cartoon. Some of the 2D materials actually have like live action backgrounds. So that's a little bit. And I remember it as a kid. I remember being scared of it because there's some scary moments. And then I watched it again because that was like 5 or 6, and it's like, no. Not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, fair enough. Frank says, I need to watch a movie with Phil. That's got to be amazing.
Well, we will.
It's a hoot.
Frank, we're gonna do Small Soldiers, right? We're gonna do that, aren't we? We gotta.
Oh, that'd be fun. Small Soldiers. Yeah, I've seen Small Soldiers. That's not a film that for me it was like it was a film that I never really my parents definitely didn't take me to the cinema to see it. So I probably saw it at some point when it was out on like DVD or something like that. But to me it was just like, oh, this is just like a mean Toy Story.
Yeah, well, for me it was one of the best things of 1998.
1998, jeez.
Next to Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, unfortunately.
Dear God, I rewatched Roland Emmerich's Godzilla the other day in glorious 4K.
Not so great, eh?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's for me. It's
I mean, it's true. Frank's right. It is the point that Small Soldiers is a mean Toy Story.
Yeah, but I was a kid when it came out, and I was just, for me, my reaction was, this seems like a mean Toy Stories, and I don't want to watch it. Like, it's not like adult me. It's just kid me was like, yeah. So therefore, I've never had an affinity for it. Yeah, no, I've seen 1998 in 4K. We watched it the other day. For me, Godzilla 1998, it's so dumb and so bad, but I still enjoy watching it for a laugh. Like, it's a good B movie that I can just put on and have a laugh at and all that kind of stuff, right?
Kid Luke sounds like adult Luke. It's great.
Kid Luke at times is very much like adult Luke.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had very strong opinions since I was a kid. You know, it's just the way I am.
It's just the way you are. It's just the way that you are.
But what was weird, I guess,
Yeah.
because we talked about this off camera the other day, I think, and it was that I kind of wrongly expected there to be maybe some improvements to certain elements of the CGI in Godzilla.
Yeah,
1998.
no one's gonna fix that.
No, and so I was sort of like, man, like, you know, this scene, like, it all looked, it all looked crap still. And the other
Yeah.
problem that I had was I really couldn't see a difference with the 4K. Like, it all still looked crap. So I was kind of like, ow.
Well, it is. We looked at I went to the website and I looked, and it said it was native 4K. It wasn't an
Yes.
upscale. It was actually scanned.
Frank says,
Put into-
wait! Save this for a
What?
Godzilla episode.
All right, fine.
We will talk about Godzilla when Godzilla -1 comes out, so we can.
When
we
is
can
that?
have
December?
I think so.
Oh, the fleas. Mommy, can you see the fleas?
Yeah. We can.
Please,
We'll talk about that in more detail, because I also want to like rewatch Godzilla 2000 and have that in my mind. That would be fun.
Yeah. I get it.
That'd be fun. So what do you
But
want
yeah,
to
Turtles.
see in a sequel for Ninja Turtles then? So Shredder,
Well-
you know, what do you want Shredder's storyline to be other than just, you know, because this Shredder will not have the same connection to Splinter.
That's right. I was gonna say that's gonna be the main thing that's gonna be missing, and I don't think that they should put it in. I don't think they should put it in, because there's no reason to do that. I feel like
No.
that's just, you know, you have a new Splinter and he's great. He's a wonderful dad.
Look at him
He turns
thighs.
into one. Yeah.
Look at him thighs, thick.
Is that the '84 one?
It's the Funko one. I don't know.
All right.
Frank got me this. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
But I don't know what design it's meant to be from.
It's just
I
hodgepodge.
don't remember.
It's a combo. It's a combo.
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah. So I was
As a
gonna
Funko
say,
goes, it's really one of the cooler ones, I think, because it
sure. Yeah.
really looks like it.
You know what I learned? Funko is actually an independent company still. They're not owned by Hasbro or anything like that. So
Interesting.
that is very interesting, and I think good for them. You know, they're still a private company, as far as I know. So what I would say is, like, you don't have that connection with Splinter, so you can't do that. So I would say, as long as you get, I think if they make Splinter, if they make Shredder serious and really do something nasty to the city, or, you know, Foot Clan could come in and just, you know, give a challenge to the Turtles. There was a challenge. We had Superfly, but just get that sort of Superfly thing and put it into Shredder, not make him a joke or anything. I mean, and I think that would play off pretty well. And then you can, you know, if you want to make a third one, you do a third one, and then you can kind of make fun of him a little bit more. But I don't know. I just feel like you just treat him seriously, and I think the movie will do better. Because this... Yeah. Anyway, that's what I think.
Yeah, I definitely don't want jokey Shredder. I mean, I didn't find Superfly jokey. I mean, he was absolutely fine. He was perfect for what he needed to be. I definitely
I don't think
wouldn't
it was
want.
jokey, really. No.
Say again.
I don't think he was joking, but I think that the
No.
fact that he kind of made friends with the turtles first is a little bit, he has a soft spot,
Yeah. Well, he's like Magneto. He's basically being Magneto.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're with me until you're not, and
Mhm.
if you're not, then I'm gonna kill you. Um, but no, I agree. Shredder needs to be serious, and not stupid like in that. Is it the second live action Ninja Turtle movie, or is he in the first one? I can't
He
remember.
was in the first one, I remember
Where
that.
he's just
Yeah.
like some guy in a big giant machine. Like, it's so dumb. Yeah,
He does
like
someone else's bidding.
stay away
Yeah.
from all of that.
Yeah,
All of
yeah.
that. All of that. And I guess the thing is, no, I guess with the origin that they told, they can't really, they can't really retroactively go back and pretend that Splinter was a pet of someone, because then why would he hate humans so much? So yeah, they definitely wouldn't be able to do that. For a sequel.
Frank says, I think Shredder should be instantly beaten and then come back in the third act as the clone Shredder. What is a clone Shredder? I don't know this.
I know I remember Clone Shredder, but I don't remember enough to like go into detail. I don't know about that. That would be weird.
I don't
guess
know.
it could work. I guess. Yeah, maybe. Sure. Why not? Why not? Dunno. But I also quite like that this franchise is like, I like that the Turtles are in high school. Yes, he was mentioned in
The
RLM
turtles are
episode.
accepted and they're in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that difference. That adds a new element to Ninja Turtles that like I haven't seen. We haven't seen in the on film in the cinema. Maybe they've done it in a cartoon somewhere. I don't know. But like we're so used to seeing them in disguise in their trench coats and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of nice to be able to see. Okay, well, how are they going to cope? How are they going to in this version of them where they can be out and about and not have to be so uber secretive. I'm looking forward.
And also,
to
they have a
seeing-
bigger family now. They have like all these other mutants living in the sewer. Like
Yes.
they should. I feel like they should also be implemented into the story in the next one moving forward if they're ever going to do that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if those people are still around for a sequel. That could be interesting. Frank
correct
says
me if I'm wrong,
most
do
of their
Bebop
rogues are
and-
their friend now.
Yeah. Do Bebop and Rocksteady, like, are they usually working with Shredder?
Yeah,
Does
I mean
Shredder
they're
make
they're,
them?
they're bad guys. They're both meant to be bad guys. But the whole
Right,
thing,
right.
the whole dynamic has changed because they're all like friends now. So what will something happen that will tear them apart, or will we just, or will they just sort of, maybe go off and do something? I'm interested to see if this whole mutant family will still be a thing in the sequel.
Yeah.
Don't know. But yeah, it's
Dunno.
fun. Fun movie.
Dunno.
Fun
Fun movie,
movie.
great movie, 10 out of 10. I am no.
The world's changing.
I don't give ratings to movies anymore.
I do. Frank sent tagged me in an article today about some PR company that's been helping Rotten Tomatoes doctor their scores by paying people for positive reviews and all that kind of stuff. And it's like we've known that Rotten Tomatoes is a sham.
It's a
For
sham.
years.
I just don't. Yeah, I'm sick of people using Rotten Tomatoes. That's how I say it. Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes as
I never look at Rotten Tomatoes for anything to judge
Yeah.
anything at all, because I'm like, I don't buy. And I remember the exact moment that I walked away, and it was with Wonder Woman, the first one. I looked at Wonder Woman, and Rotten Tomatoes had it at like a 93%, and I was like, that film is not a 93% film. Like, it just isn't. I like it. I enjoy it. The ending is
Right.
dumb, and it has some really, really dodgy CGI, some really rubbery Wolverine Origins level bad CGI.
I still remember the fight with
Yep.
David.
Whatever his name
Is
is.
that his
Yes.
name? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that guy. And it was like, I saw that and I thought, you know what? Rotten Tomatoes. It's not me, it's you, and we're done.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
I
I don't like. I just don't give things ratings anymore because first of all, I realize how often I shift my ratings every time I rewatch a movie. So I'm
mm,
just like, hell, forget it. I'm not gonna waste my time trying to rate something in my corner because I always keep changing it. So, whatever.
yeah, I
That's kind
don't
of
know
how
if
I
I
am.
change. I don't. Certain things will definitely change, but not. I think in general, most of my ratings, like, yeah, this is probably this. You know, like
Sure.
like I'm not gonna change my like. Sometimes my rating fluctuate. My rating will fluctuate the most if it's something I've seen most recently and I'm trying to like still figure out. So like Indiana Jones was like the new one. I was like, is it a 3? Is it a 4? Or is it lower? And I just had to keep going back and forth with myself about
Mm-hmm.
that whole experience and that movie and yeah, I had to land on a different score. But then as Frank's mentioned, my my thoughts on Crystal Skull have changed. But before I would have put Crystal Skull at a very firm like
Yeah.
2 star, and now I'm like, you know what? It's probably it's a decent 3
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
compared to 4 or compared to 5, which I'm now is like that's a firm 2. Like that's not going to change. Like Indy 5 will be the worst of the lot. But yeah, I've talked about that enough. Talked about that enough.
We've
Um,
talked about it enough.
yeah, but
We
and
can.
then you got things like Barbie. It's a 3.
Oh,
I
let's
gave
not
it
get into that with
you
with
know
Frank.
I don't mind. Like
I've not seen Barbie, by the way,
yeah,
Frank.
I'm not going to repeat my review. Like yeah, but yeah. I mean, also Frank's read my letterbox review, which is more or less what I said here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
3. It's a 3.
Eh.
Phil will like Barbie. I don't know about that, Frank.
I don't
I
know. I
don't
don't.
know.
But I know that I'm gonna see it. I'm probably gonna see it because
Yeah,
everyone's
Ghost.
telling me all these things, and I'm just more and more confused. So I
Yes,
think at this point, I probably need to see it because I still know I have no impression of what the movie's about, really. Like, from start to finish. I
I
don't
don't think the
understand.
filmmakers know what the movie's about.
Okay.
Frank says the MI rating, MI 7. I mean, seven was a hard one for me because it really was a mix between 3 and 4. On the scale, I was like, I didn't.
Oh, I
It
see.
was it. I'm still when I think about MI 7, like I don't dislike it, but it didn't hit as hard as Fallout. And I think there were other
Mm-hmm.
films in the franchise that are better than 7. It's not the best in the series. It's a decent one, but I said it's on par with Ghost Protocol.
Right.
That's for me is kind of where it's at.
I just like the back and forth with you and Frank about Mission Impossible 7's rating. It's great.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I mean, I left it as a 4 star, so I'll leave it there. It's not it was entertaining.
right.
I was mostly entertained, and a little bit bored. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway,
Anyway.
I'll probably wrap this up now because I didn't mean to talk for an hour and 40. It's like, oh, this will just be an hour or something.
It happens.
MI3 is the perfect 3 star. MI3 is
Out of 5?
out of 5. Yeah, yeah. I can say it's a 3. Yeah, I guess that works.
What
the hell is that?
That's the music at the end of Mission Impossible 3.
It is.
Huh?
Okay, I believe you. I believe you. I believe you. But yeah, so
Frank would know.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would. So anyway, next week will be fun.
What's next
Um,
week? What's happening?
I have a couple of guests on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's Chris and Nadia from the Inside All Day podcast. We're doing a retrospective on Blade.
Just the first one, right?
Yeah, just the first one. Yeah, I don't have time to watch them all.
I don't have time. Have you seen the third
I
one?
don't.
Have you seen the third one?
No.
It is terrible.
I've heard that they don't that they I've heard, yeah, 1 is good, 2 is not, 3 is or
2 is excellent.
or
2
not,
is
not
better than 1 in some cases.
Yeah, maybe that's what I've heard. And that 3 is the worst.
3 is just like 10 steps down. It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, at some point I'm sure I will watch and talk about 3. Or not 3, but 2. But yeah, we're just chatting about Blade. Just chatting about
Blade is great. I love Blade. Wesley
Yes.
Snipes' Blade is so good.
Yes.
Like,
And
1 and
yeah,
2.
at some point in, I don't know when yet. I'm talking with Zach from Always Hold On to Smallville.
Yeah, that's right. Smallville.
To do a we were talking about coming back on and doing another retrospective, maybe like doing Superman Returns or something fun like that. Which would be interesting because I'm very unlike Batman Forever. I have a very different set of emotions for Superman Returns. It's a interesting movie. That's all I'm gonna say for now. Frank says, wear a Blade t-shirt for next week. I don't have a Blade t-shirt, and I'm not gonna get one.
Oh, boo! Get a Blade t-shirt.
I don't have one, and it's it's fine. And then he says, "Oh wow, Superman Returns." Yes. I find
The sun becomes
I won't say what I think about Superman Returns here, but I will say I've always been a bit disappointed that it never got a sequel.
Wow.
Only because I've heard ideas for what the sequel were going to be, and I was like, that sounds kind of awesome. Could have been cool.
Was it supposed to be Brainiac?
Yeah, some Brainiac stuff and going down.
He never shows up in any Superman movie ever, and they always keep trying to put him in, and he never.
Nope, but you know where he does show up? You know where he does show up?
Smallville.
Smallville season 5.
Great.
He's great. That was a great season.
He shows up in the animated series. That's what I remember him from. So.
Yes, he does. But anyway, I guess we can wrap this up. Unless anyone has any other questions in the chat.
No.
Now is the time to put them in.
I just want pizza.
Or we're going
if only Domino's is still open over here, I'd just order a pizza right now.
They were using Pizza Hut, wasn't it? That was their thing.
Yeah, it was Pizza Hut. In the first movie, it was Domino's, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And it's yeah, Pizza Hut is Domino's. I enjoy better here than I do Pizza Hut. Crazy.
We don't have Pizza Hut here.
Frank says, "Ugh, Brainiac was going to be in Man of Steel 2, but WB wanted Batman." Poor Brainiac. He just can't get a. You know what? I at this point, it was interesting. I was at this literary conference the other day, and we were having my friend Bonnie was on a panel talking about stuff, and then one of the other authors on that panel was Chris Higson, I think his name was.
Chris Higson. Okay.
Tell you what, I better make sure I say it correct.
Anybody who scoffs at people who just want to get someone's names correct and have to wait and do a little Google search beforehand and is not a gentleman. Is that the case? Yeah. No. Let the
Charlie.
person,
Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah. Let someone find the right
Charlie.
name.
I gotta. Look. I got to talk. I gotta say the names correctly. It's. There's no point.
I'm supporting that idea.
Yes.
That's why I said you're not a gentleman if you scoff at someone taking 3 seconds.
Frank says talk about the conference in detail.
No, it's been an hour and 44, Luke. I'm sorry. Do it next year. Wow. Next episode.
No, I'm not doing it next episode. If I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it now.
Oh, great. So I'm okay. Let's go. Come on, Luke.
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it in detail. But all I was going to say is Charlie writes the Young James Bond series, and he recently wrote the on His Majesty's Secret Service, which was a small novella in honor of the coronation of King Chucky.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was meant to be like it's a story about James Bond who has to thwart an assassination attempt on King Chuck.
Amazing. King Chuck.
And yeah, and so basically we were having lunch together after the panel, and one of the other guys there was the guy who's like in charge of the James Bond estate.
Oh, okay.
Which was funny, because it's like someone whispered to me, they're like, so because I was talking to someone else at the table, and they were like, oh yeah, this is the guy who is basically in charge of the sanitized James Bond books that was announced a while ago.
Oh, okay.
And so I just kept whispering, bad idea, bad idea,
Ooh.
hoping that it would like some sort of Freudian thing would get in there and yeah. But anyway, we were talking about James Bond and the future James Bond and all that kind of stuff, and what could happen with the franchise and all that sort of stuff, and how it was interesting the insights that were coming out. They're basically saying that like directors on Bond films are more or less kind of like Marvel directors, and that they're just babysitters.
Really?
They really have to abide by what the franchise has to, like, what the people in charge of the franchise says. Like, you have to do this, you can't do that, and that sort of thing. So they don't really have a lot of creative freedom, which I thought was interesting. But then we were also talking about who the next James Bond is going to be, and the joke. There was jokes about Idris Elba and
It's always Idris Elba. He's never gonna.
Yeah, he's too old, and everyone was in agreement that he's too old, and he is. And then I made the joke about Henry Cavill, and the whole sort of everyone's just like, but he's such a like no one likes him. It's funny, like he seems like a nice guy, but the bulk of what I get from people is that they just see him as
in
like,
actor years.
Yes, in actor years, Idris is like 90.
Good.
Yes.
I like that.
But they're like, yeah, Henry Cavill is just such a bland actor. Like, he's just so boring. Like, he's the most boring Superman. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of true. I like Henry Cavill. He was done dirty by DC, but also none of his Superman performances inspired me at all. Like,
I think it's just a character that he was playing.
Clark Kent Superman?
Yeah. I think it was just the character that was being displayed in Man of Steel. Which is. You said that. No, you said that Henry Cavill was the most boring Superman, right?
Yes, I have seen him in other projects other than Superman, Frank, and he really is kind of one note.
Okay.
Like.
All right. I'm just saying.
I've seen him in the Man from U.N.C.L.E. I've seen him in The Witcher.
So you actually say uncle. You don't say the man from U.N.C.L.E.
No, because it's Uncle.
Okay, I've not seen it. So.
Yeah, and he's pretty pretty flat. I don't hate him.
Luke hates him.
I don't hate him. But I sort of get it. I'm like, yeah, I don't think he would be. I don't think he'd be a good choice for Superman.
I think you look for an unknown actor like they did with. I mean,
basically that's what they were saying.
George
They're
Lazenby.
like, they were basically saying that they will never pick a big name. They will pick someone who's like, sort of, maybe a little bit known, maybe a little bit rising. Yeah, because they're not going to pick someone like a Cavill, like an Alba, who has clout behind them to push back.
Interesting. I didn't know that about the James Bond series.
I didn't either. So that was interesting to hear. I was like, oh, interesting. So because then it made me think about that documentary I listened to a while back, with Daniel Craig and Barbara Broccoli and the other producer, and the way in which they were talking about Craig's tenure and the way it kind of went from Sam Mendes really didn't want to do Spectre. He really didn't want to do it. And Craig went to him and was like, please, for me, will you do it?
Okay, so he did it for Craig because Craig didn't want to work with another director.
Well, I mean, he wanted to work with him again for whatever reason. but it's and you kind of think, oh well, that must have been why he was less interested, because he did Spectre as probably the best he was going to be able to do, probably under the constraints that they had, and then Spectre comes out, or I think it's Spectre, I meant Skyfall, and then Spectre
Skyfall.
yeah, he did Skyfall. Yeah.
No,
He
I
did-
know
he-
Sam Mendes did Skyfall, but like, which one is the one where Daniel
Spectre.
Craig said, "Please do it"?
Spectre. Yeah.
Okay.
He said, "Come back and please do Spectre," and Sam was like, at least according to this discussion, he was like, and then came back and did it. But then if you watch Spectre, it feels like they're trying to just hit. It's like, okay, Skyfall worked. Do everything that Skyfall did, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, God.
Okay,
Anyway.
so who's in charge? Barbara?
I mean, I guess she's probably the most. I mean, we didn't talk about
who's
like the
holding
names.
who's holding the
I'm assuming
keys?
it's Barbara Broccoli, and whoever her producer partners are, because the
Okay,
Brocolis
and
have
what
been
does
in
the
charge of
estate
James
do?
Bond since the beginning, haven't they?
What does the James Bond estate do then?
The James Bond estate is like for the literary estate.
The literary
So they're in
estate.
charge of like publishing new books and reissuing Fleming's work
Right,
and things
okay,
like that. So
okay.
they don't have any say in like the film stuff.
Okay.
They have say in the literary side of things. They want someone to write a new Bond book.
Gotcha.
Blah 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 blah.
Gotcha.
That kind of stuff. But yeah,
All right.
there we go. Anyway,
with that, we
a
can
good
conclude
2-hour-long episode that was meant to be an
This
hour long.
2-hour-long episode starring me.
I wonder if when I go downstairs, if my dear baby will be asleep or if she will still be awake and crying.
I don't know, man.
We'll find out. But no, Mutant Mayhem, go see it if you haven't. Also subscribe to this channel and like this
Yes.
video.
Like this
and
video.
Follow me on Twitter on the handle Luke Writes Crime. And you can find Phil. What's your handle? It's
Yep.
just Phil Dragish, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty
I
much.
try to keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Keep it safe. I am wrapping up, man. We've been here for 2 hours, buddy. Been here for 2 hours. And this is I'm trying to not do such long streams, but this one just sort of got away from me.
This one sort of got away from you.
It did.
What
But
can you do?
good times. Mutant Mayhem, three roses. Barbie,
3 roses.
1 rose. That's my score. If you know, you know. But until then, I'll be back next week talking Blade. So we will.
I want to watch Blade so good.
We can watch it. We'll watch it in preparation because I need to watch it. So yeah.
He's my favorite Marvel character.
Your favorite?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, thanks for listening, people. I'll see you next week. Adios. Yes. Bye bye.